Upon my arrival at home on Friday evening, I was under the impression that after a challenging week spent on the airplane, I would finally be able to enjoy myself in the company of my lovely wife. The 3 children, who are more or less independent, reside in separate homes. Considering that we have been married for 22 years, perhaps we might go somewhere and have a pleasant evening together. From the garage, I made my way into the kitchen, where I quickly inspected the mail that was sitting on the kitchen table. I was upstairs when I heard a disturbance, and then I heard the sound of footsteps walking down the stairs. When my lovely wife, who is 45 years old, entered the living room, she was wearing a short robe that never failed to delight me every time she put it on. Oh, she was shouting, "You're early." "Ah, I didn't expect you until an hour or so later." After taking a peek at my watch, I became aware that I had arrived ahead of schedule. "But it's not too early. What is this for? Where are we going?" "Well, I'm leaving. I don't know what you're doing. My weekend just went down the drain." As she looked at the small bag of items that was standing at the end of the sofa, she asked, "What do you mean you're leaving? Where are you going? And with whom are you going?" "I have a date with William Strathmore. This is for the weekend. I'll be home Sunday night and we'll talk about it." In my mind, I was thinking, what the hell did she just say it was then that I heard the door slam shut behind her as she turned and rushed upstairs? I need to finish getting ready. In my head, I was thinking, what the hell are you going to do with this? The first thing that sprang to my mind was that I required reinforcements. I pulled out my cell phone and dialed the number that belonged to my daughter. Despite what my wife had stated, I was not going to be the one to do the wrong thing. "Hello, Daddy. What's the matter?" she cheerily asked in response to the question. I grabbed her mother's purse and emptied the contents onto the coffee table. "I need you to come here immediately. Your mother hurt her head, and she needs us." "I have to go, Dad," I heard as I hung up the phone. The same message was sent to my son, but it also included the following words: "Call your brother and tell him to come here as soon as possible, Dad." Despite my response of "what the heck," I stopped the conversation. After that, I took a quick call to her parents and repeated the same thing to them. As soon as I handed over Judith's handbag, they exhibited the same level of astonishment and let out a few cries. The typical items were spilled out, including credit cards, keys, 12 packs of Trojan condoms I had a vasectomy, and a copy of the confirmation email from the Marriott Hotel in Kenworth, which was sent to rooms 703 to 710. Guy, I thought to myself. The pediatric surgeons at her place of employment included William Strathmore as one of them. 2 or 3 times over the course of the past 5 years, I have had the opportunity to meet him at a hospital Christmas party. The guy was slimy, and that was the nicest thing I could say about him. I had the idea that his wife had issues with him, despite the fact that she was breathtakingly gorgeous. I seized credit cards as well as the keys to the vehicle. A little later, I grabbed the email and tucked it away in my pocket, just in case. I made use of my mobile phone and unlocked it. The code she provided was the date of our anniversary. Risk-free. Hey, she was still busy upstairs, so I retrieved the emergency list from her place of employment and located this excellent physician. The use of his house phone would be beneficial, but his mobile phone is not required. It took 2 rings before someone picked up the phone when I dialed it. "Oh dear, I was waiting for your call. I don't recognize this number, though. Is everything okay? Is this Mrs. Strathmore?" "Yes. And who is it?" "This is David Collins. My wife is the head nurse at the hospital where your husband works. I don't know if you remember me." "Yes, Dave, I remember. My husband and I were talking about you and your wife a couple of days ago. I was expecting a call from William when you called. What can I do for you?" "So your husband is not at home?" "No, he's in Boston at a surgical conference." "Everything is fine. Look, Mrs. Strathmore, I don't know how to say this, but I don't think he's there. I had just had an argument with my wife, and she told me she was going to spend the weekend with him at the Marriott in Kenworth, which would end on Sunday evening." "What are you speaking about?" "I think we're both being lied to. I have email confirmation to rent 7 adjoining rooms on the 7th floor from today through Monday. I saved your number, Mr. Collins. Let me get back to you." I looked at the emergency call list and located the phone number of the hospital's director of health, Corinne Adams. I said to myself, I've had enough of this crap. Her and my wife were close friends, and I was familiar with her. The spouse was a detective sergeant, and I was familiar with him. It was nearly instantaneous that I dialed her telephone. According to her response, "Hello, who is this?" I was definitely terrified when I heard a faint, "Oh no, yes, Dave. What can I do for you?" coming from the direction of Karen. "This is David Collins, Judith's husband. I think there is some impropriety going on between Dr. Strathmore and my wife, and I want it investigated and stopped." "Sorry, Dave, I can't talk right now. I have to go, please click." Judith's mobile phone rang almost soon after she said, "Wow, that's really strange." I picked up the phone on the 3rd ring, during which I could feel my stomach churning. The caller started off by asking Judith he knows everything. What did you tell him? Without waiting for me to say anything. I then proceeded to provide the information to her, saying, not all, Karin, but gradually I found out the harsh sigh that came from the other end of the telephone was quite illuminating. As you click, goodbye. I quickly located her home phone number and dialed it as soon as I could. After 4 rings, a man answered the phone and said, look, I don't want to upgrade my cable service. Jerry, looks like you've had a bad day. Who is this? Dave Collins, Judith's husband. Yes, nothing but sales calls and spam. What's the matter, Dave? Is Karin home? No, I'm babysitting the kids this weekend. Karin's at a hospital-sponsored team-building weekend in Philadelphia. Why do you ask? I took a deep breath before revealing to him everything that I had seen and suspected, including the following, and I suspect that it's not just the 3 of them involved 7 hotel rooms. The person on the other end of the telephone did not even make a sound. Are you thinking about the same thing as me? I don't know what I'm thinking about, but I know one thing: Judith won't leave here tonight. Even if I end up in jail, I'll contact you if I find out anything. Don't do anything stupid. I was able to hear the wheels turning since Jerry was a police officer. After that, Judith descended the stairs while wearing a red silk sheath dress that was crimson in color and reached almost all the way down to her waist. The neckline of the dress was divided on the right side to reach the middle of her thighs. It dawned on her that her purse had been thrown upon the table. What the heck? I have to go, and you threw away all my things. At that moment I yelled out, oh no, you will not do this. You are not going anywhere. Now, shut up and sit down. She then began gathering things. She was shaking and uttering the following words: I don't belong to you. I can do whatever I want. Yes, well, then I can too. How do you like it? I reached out and grabbed the low neckline of her dress, yanking it down. How do you like it? Suddenly she found herself standing in a bra with open cups, a garter belt made of French lace, and a lace top of smoky grey seamed stockings. She was almost completely naked. She was screaming and wailing, my dress, no, this is not your dress. I bought it for our 25th wedding anniversary, along with most of the underwear you wore. If you go anywhere tonight, you won't wear this dress. After that, my mobile phone started to ring. Hello, Dave Collins, this is Mary Strathmore. I'm sorry to tell you, but you were right. I called the police and reported the car stolen. I bought the car for him, and it's registered in my name. They stopped him about 5 minutes ago. He claimed that he was my husband and that he had the right to drive the car. She laughed in a voice that was tense. I heard him in the background as I angrily told the police that this was impossible. My husband is in Boston. The background gasped, and she stated that he needed a lawyer. They called me and told me that he said he was my husband. I heard him in the background. I have to go down and fix the mess. He is arrested, and the car is confiscated. Tell your wife I'll come get her next time. It was a speakerphone conversation between us. Judith let out a gasp and a scream as soon as she understood whose call it was. What did you do, David? Damn you, she said. At this moment, my children came running in. Dad, what's going on? Mom, are you okay? Dave Jr. asked his father on the phone. Haley, my daughter, rushed into the room and asked her mother, are you okay, Mom? What happened to your dress? When she saw her mother, she was shocked. What the heck, Mom? Your father tore it up. Death glares directed towards me. What the heck? What have you been up to? Please explain to me and to them why. What is the reason that you have 12 packs of condoms in your purse? Judith asked in a direct manner. Do you plan on making water balloons or something else for yourself? I am not aware of the origin of those products. And where were you going? Judith said in a voice that was so soft that it was nearly inaudible. They are not mine. Isn't that what you meant when you said having a sexy weekend without my husband? As soon as she heard the words, I can do what I want, this is my body, Judith became aware of what she had just said in front of your children. She then spoke in a more subdued tone and stated, well, that's my business. Young Dave rolled his eyes and went to the kitchen to get something to drink. A few minutes later, he returned with an envelope. Here, Dad, it's addressed to you. He looked at his mother with contempt on his face. Judith screamed and jumped up from the sofa, the remains of her dress falling to the floor. Don't read this. She let out a scream. Shut up, Judith, and take a seat, Haley insisted as she hurried to assist her mother in covering herself. I took the envelope out of its envelope and read it out loud. My dear husband, my sister is taking care of her mother and requires some assistance this coming weekend. I will be spending time with them, and I will return home on Monday evening. She had written the note before she came face to face with me. Her confusion and panic would be her doom. The children stared at each other and did not know what to think. I knew that she had written the note before she came face to face with me. Then, as if the fates were watching the play while eating popcorn, the front doorbell rang. Before Michael could open it, Judith's mother and father stormed in. Judith, are you okay? Michael said. Her mother inquired, What is going on here, Judith?" While her father yelled out in a loud voice. After passing out, Judith said, "Hello, Mum and Dad. You have arrived to the epicenter of the conundrum storm." While her mother and my daughter were attempting to resuscitate Judith, her father was slowly boiling over. I brought them up to speed on what had transpired, and the mood became, "And Coulter just managed to ruin our marriage, and she probably also managed to ruin her life and career," I seethed. In the vicinity of this time, Judith regained consciousness and looked around in a frenzied manner. She pleaded with her mother to assist her, asking help. "Do you require assistance? You might want to try calling your sister. The lines 'help you' are going to help her with your mother. Maybe she can return the favor to you," were spoken by me as I delivered the note to her father and dialed her sister's number while he was reading the note out loud. "Hello, is this David?" the phone asked at the same time. "I am doing well, Mavis. How are you? I was wondering how Mum is doing." "It seems like she is okay." "Absolutely, she is doing quite well. The assistance that Judith provides is so valuable that I am unsure of what I would do without her. Could you kindly let me speak to her?" "Oh, well, she's really busy at the moment. Would you mind if I asked her to give you a call back after some time has passed?" Mother snatched the phone and snarled at her second daughter, saying, "This is not necessary. You self-processed nonsense," her sister wailed in hysterics. Judith couldn't take it any longer and slumped on the floor. At this point, she was almost fully naked in front of her children and her parents. She terminated the conversation by saying, "Don't bother checking on my health," Mavis over the mumbled screams of her second daughter. Around this time, my phone rang once more. "This is Jerry, and I am David. You were absolutely correct. 7 rooms at the Marriott Hotel were subject to a search order that I obtained. We investigated the area using a warrant for a missing person that I had taken an oath on, and we discovered 12 additional persons. Among those who were discovered were my wife, 3 male doctors, 4 female doctors, 4 nurses, and another female member of the human resources team. My wife as well. My deepest apologies, Dave." "Sincere apologies." "Yes, indeed, Jerry. On the other hand, things are as they are." She raised her whimpering self into a standing posture and turned around to climb up. Then she paused and pleaded, "Please don't throw me away like this." I turned to my future ex-wife and said, "Go upstairs, put on something decent, dear, and get out of my house." She then pushed herself to a standing position. "You mean to tell me that you damaged our marriage with your 'it's my body' statement?" "I'll do what I want." Nonsense, I have been tempted many times. I could have had sex with the little waitress at the diner where we used to have coffee after the night shift. I could have gotten a woman at the Lincoln dealership where we bought the car. Hell, even your own sister was hitting on me, but I was in love with you, and this is the gratitude I receive. Get out of my life." She completely lost her composure, turned and ran upstairs, losing her high-heeled shoe along the way. There was complete and utter silence in the living room. After that, my daughter responded, "I'll go and make sure she doesn't do anything stupid." Dad, Judith arrived downstairs approximately 30 minutes later with her bag, dressed in jeans and a sweatshirt. Both her hair and her cosmetics were a complete ordeal. When she was on her way out, my oldest son stopped her and said, "Don't worry, Mom. Adrian and I will plan your wedding so that it doesn't interfere with any of your sex festivities. It's not like you got an invitation. Maybe Dad can bring a new girlfriend." Adrian was Dave's serious girlfriend, but we didn't know how serious she was. At this point, we are absolutely lost. Judith came to a stop at the entrance, and her mother joined her while she left the building. Her father turned to me and asked, "Is there any way to overcome all of this? She obviously needs help, but nothing seems to have happened. She can talk to my lawyer about it. Remember, son, she loves you." I immediately looked him in the eye and said, "Funny way to show it." The funny thing was that they all threw out the same crap, which was that adults, all of whom consented, do nothing wrong until they are caught. After further investigation, it was found out that the reputable physician had used the hospital credit card issued by the corporation to rent rooms, as well as to pay for beverages and food at a weekend party. However, 8 people were identified as being on duty or attending some fictional official seminar or hospital event. The hospital made an effort to prevent publicity, but the participants were listed. As soon as this information got public, a number of marriages ended. Although this was not the first party, it was most certainly the last one that was held. Although I have filed for divorce, you should know that I am a well-mannered aviation mechanic. Do you recall that? As the movie goes, I loved her more than my bags. I loved her more than my luggage. When she went to counseling, I decided to let it go on for a while. The children were there for me and saw that I was at least making an effort, but it was so painful, and it just happened like a bolt from the blue. They were there for me. What caused me to be so oblivious? My medical leave was extended by United Airlines, which showed their compassion for my situation. As was the case with everyone else involved, she was fired from her work. Following his dismissal, the good doctor was subsequently sued and convicted. In addition to Karen, her deputy also lost their jobs. Because of the significant scarcity of nurses, there were a number of openings for careers in the medical field. Because they were hunting for fresh meat, my wife was the most recent member of the sex club to be picked up by the organization. Corinne had been working on her for quite some time, insisting that she owed it to herself, that it would be a lot of fun I'd never know, and that in addition, many husbands find pleasure in their wives having sex with other men. She had been noticed for quite some time. 6 months passed before they were finally successful in persuading her. Even though it took me more than a year, I loved her and I couldn't imagine my life without her. A question that has been asked for a long time: would you be happier if she were not a part of your life? As a hawk, I kept a close eye on her. I never stopped asking her questions about whether or not everything was fine with us. I was bombarding her with inquiries, she reported, and I paid close attention to what she had to say. The situation reached a point where it was driving her completely insane. However, after listening to her therapist, her parents, and our children, she saw that I was expending a tremendous amount of effort, and she loved me for it. God, but still I had faith in her. I filed a lawsuit against the hospital as well as Dr. Strathmore. Despite the fact that I was ahead of the other injured parties, I was required to join the queue following the divorce suit filed by his wife. We cleaned it out together as a group. There was not a lot of luck for the hospital. We reached a settlement out of court for a quantity of money that was in the 6-figure range, and the agreement was sealed. The remaining claimants were awarded a total of 7 figures in awards that were kept confidential. There was no place where my daughter-in-law was welcomed, and I am not sure whether her parents have had any conversations with her yet. Have I been fortunate with the outcome, the way that it turned out? I am grateful for the support of my children and my friends, as well as the fact that my intellect was able to function at its full potential at the appropriate moment. Although I didn't believe I did, it's possible that I did take my marriage for granted. There is no more. The wait was more than a year, but we are now back, and our sex is absolutely mouth-watering. The trauma that she has inflicted is gradually becoming better, but she does occasionally cry out in postcoital pleasure and apologize for all of the pain that she has caused. Remember that I adore her, but don't assume that I'm a weakling. I've already said that. As the doctor was leaving the gym, I cheered him on. This was around 8 months after the mess storm. I pounded him to the point of fracturing 3 of his fingers and crushing one of his balls because I was so determined to get him to stop. His attractiveness is no longer seen in him. The fact that I was in the presence of a law enforcement officer at the moment was fortunate for me. So life continues on. Yes, I am aware that it is really nasty and disgusting. If you don't meddle with my wife, I'll keep my cool and obey you. You should subscribe to our channel in order to prevent your second half from cheating on you. And you should also listen to the next story because the one you are currently listening to is nothing in comparison to the one that comes after it. If you are younger than 18 years old, you should not even consider listening to the following one.